The nurse didn't say my mother would survive. She just looked at me and whispered, "You should prepare yourself." That was the moment everything inside me broke. If I hadn't asked that one question later that day, I would still be free. My name is Zahara. I was born in a small African town where hope fades quickly and hunger learns your name before your neighbors do. My father died when I was 16. My mother worked herself sick trying to keep us alive. And now, at 27, I was standing beside her hospital bed watching her chest rise and fall like it was unsure whether to keep going. Her lips were dry. Her eyes barely opened. "Zahara," she whispered. I took her hand. "I'm here, Mama." She tried to smile. I wanted to be strong for her. But inside, I was screaming. The doctor pulled me aside. "She needs surgery," he said quietly. "And strong medicine after. If we wait too long." He didn't finish. "How much?" I asked. He gave me a number so large my knees weakened. I earned money selling fruit on the roadside. That amount was impossible. I walked out of the hospital in shock. Outside, the city moved like nothing was wrong. Buses honked. People laughed. Life continued while mine was falling apart. I went door to door. Friends, relatives, even strangers. Some gave small coins. Some gave sympathy. Most gave nothing. By evening, I sat on the pavement counting the money in my palm. Not even close. That's when I saw the building. Clean glass walls. Bright signs. Security guards at the entrance. It didn't belong in our poor neighborhood. A board outside read, "Private Assistance Office. Inquiries welcome." I stood there for a long time. My heart said no, but my mother's weak voice echoed in my ears. So I went inside. Cold air hit my skin. A woman behind the desk looked me up and down. "Yes, my mother is very sick," I said. "I need help." She didn't look surprised. She nodded slowly and picked up a phone. Minutes later, a man in a suit came out. He smiled. "You're Zahara?" I nodded. He led me upstairs. His office was bright. Too clean. He listened quietly while I explained everything. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "We can help you." My heart jumped. But he continued softly, "Nothing comes free." "I can work," I said quickly. "Anything." He studied my face. Then he said, "You'll stay with us for a while." Something about the way he said it made my stomach twist. "How long?" He smiled. "That depends on you." Then I asked the question that changed my life forever. "When can I get the money?" That same night, my mother was moved into surgery. And I signed an agreement I didn't fully understand. I told myself I had done the right thing. I had saved her. I didn't know I had sold myself. The money arrived the very next morning, and that alone should have frightened me. No bank delays. No paperwork. Just a thick envelope placed quietly into my hands by the same suited man who had smiled at me the day before. My fingers trembled as I counted it. It was enough for surgery, medicine, and weeks of care. I rushed straight to the hospital, paid every bill, and watched nurses move faster once the payment cleared. My mother was taken into the operating room while I sat outside holding my breath, whispering prayers I hadn't spoken since childhood. When the doctor finally came out and said she was stable, relief washed over me so hard I almost collapsed. For the first time in days, I cried tears that weren't made of fear. But happiness lasted only a few hours, because that evening a black car arrived outside my rented room. The driver didn't introduce himself. He simply opened the door. Inside, everything smelled of leather and quiet control. We drove without music, without conversation, until we reached another modern building far from the hospital. It looked clean and professional, nothing like the dangerous places people warn you about. That's how traps survive, by looking safe. Inside, they took my phone and gave me a small badge with my name on it. Zahara. It felt strange seeing my identity reduced to plastic. A woman led me through bright corridors into a room filled with desks and glowing screens. "This is where you'll work," she said calmly. I asked what exactly I would be doing, but she only replied, "Observation and reporting." She showed me how to read files, how to summarize information, how to flag emotional behavior. At first, it seemed harmless, reviewing data, writing short reports, watching recorded interviews. But slowly, I began to realize the files weren't about companies or markets. They were about people. Real people. Poor women like me. Their backgrounds, their debts, their families, their fears. Some files included medical reports. Others had voice recordings. Every detail of their lives was laid open like merchandise. My chest tightened as I scrolled. These were not employees. These were subjects. On the second day, I noticed every door required permission. Every hallway had cameras. Every smile from supervisors lasted half a second too long. Nobody talked freely. Even during breaks, people sat silently, eyes on their cups. I tried to tell myself I was overthinking, that this was simply how professional environments worked. But then I saw a file marked non-compliant. The woman's profile photo looked familiar. She had been sitting 2 desks away from me the day before. When I asked where she was, the supervisor said she had completed her term. No goodbye. No explanation. Just erased. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mother called from the hospital, thanking me again and again. I told her everything was fine. I didn't tell her I felt like I was slowly disappearing. By the 3rd day, rules appeared on my screen. Do not ask personal questions. Do not discuss your work. Do not attempt to leave the premises during assigned hours. If you feel overwhelmed, notify your supervisor. I read them twice. My stomach twisted. When I asked how long my assignment would last, the woman from reception smiled gently and said, "Until your obligation is fulfilled." I didn't remember agreeing to an obligation. But apparently, saving my mother had created one. Later that afternoon, while organizing files, I accidentally opened a live surveillance feed. At first, I didn't understand what I was seeing. Then my heart stopped. It was my mother's hospital room. A camera angle from above. A nurse adjusting her blanket. My breath caught in my throat. They weren't just helping her. They were watching her. I closed the screen quickly, terrified someone had seen me. That evening, the suited man called me into his office. He told me I was doing well. He said cooperation made everything easier. Then he added, almost casually, "Your mother's recovery depends on consistency." The message was clear. My obedience kept her alive. From that moment, fear followed me like a shadow. Every task felt heavier. Every step felt measured. I realized the money had not been a gift. It was a chain, and I had wrapped it around my own neck. I wanted to leave, but I didn't know how. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't risk my mother's life. So I worked. I obeyed. I smiled when they spoke. But inside, something began to harden. Late one night, as I was shutting down my system, I found a small message hidden beneath the report. It was just one line, "Leaving is possible. But it costs everything." My hand shook. I didn't know who sent it. I didn't know if it was a trap. But for the first time since I had walked into that bright building, I understood one thing clearly. I was no longer an employee. I was a hostage who had volunteered. The first woman who warned me did it without words. She simply looked at me one morning as she passed my desk and shook her head slowly, like someone watching a person walk toward fire. I didn't understand then. I smiled back politely. That same afternoon, her chair was empty. Her name disappeared from the system. When I asked about her, the supervisor said she had been reassigned. Something cold moved through my chest. People didn't get reassigned here. They vanished. By now I had learned the rhythms of the building. Cameras followed every corridor. Doors opened only with approval. Every conversation felt monitored. Even laughter sounded controlled. We were allowed to leave at night, but always escorted, always in company vehicles. Home became a place I only visited to sleep, too afraid to tell neighbors where I worked. My mother kept improving, and I told myself that was all that mattered. But inside, fear was eating me slowly. I started noticing patterns in the files. Every woman recruited had one thing in common: desperation. Sick parents. Hungry children. Crushing debt. They chose us carefully, like hunters choosing prey. They offered help, then attached invisible strings. The more I read, the clearer it became. This organization specialized in turning suffering into obedience. Those who followed instructions advanced to higher levels. Those who questioned were labeled unstable. Those who resisted were marked non-compliant. After that, their record stopped. One evening, while reviewing archived footage, I saw something that made my hands go numb. A woman stood in the lobby arguing with security. She was crying, begging to leave. Her voice was muted, but I could read her lips. She kept saying, "My child needs me." 2 guards gently guided her away. The file ended there. No follow-up. No outcome. Just silence. I stared at the frozen frame for a long time before closing it. That night, I dreamed of doors without handles. The next morning, I found another message hidden inside a document. Same writing style. Same invisible sender. "You won't survive here by staying quiet." My heart pounded. Someone inside was trying to help me. Or someone was testing me. Either way, responding felt dangerous. I deleted the message, but I couldn't delete the idea it planted in my mind. Later that day, the suited man summoned me again. He praised my performance and offered me access to a higher-level system. "Trust is earned," he said. His eyes studied my face carefully. I forced myself to look calm. Inside, panic swirled. More access meant more responsibility. It also meant they were watching me more closely. That evening, while exploring my new permissions, I uncovered something far worse than surveillance. Financial records, offshore accounts, medical contracts, transport logs. They weren't just collecting information, they were selling influence. Human data, emotional leverage, entire lives packaged into profitable agreements. My stomach turned as I realized how big this operation was. This wasn't a hidden office. This was a network. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. A photo. My mother, asleep in her hospital bed. Then a message. "Stay focused." Tears burned my eyes. I understood now. Every step I took was being tracked. Every doubt was being measured. The woman who had first welcomed me approached quietly later that night. Her voice was low. "You're thinking too much," she said. "That's dangerous here." "I just want to finish my work and go back to my normal life," I replied. She looked at me with something close to pity. "Normal life ended the day you walked into that building." Her words haunted me. Days passed. My smile became automatic. My heart learned to hide. But something inside me refused to fully surrender. I began saving small pieces of information, timestamps, account numbers, internal messages, hiding them in harmless-looking folders. I didn't yet know what I would do with them. I only knew I needed proof if I ever got a chance. Then one afternoon, during a routine review, I found my own profile. Zahara status, active asset. My breath caught. Below it was a psychological assessment. Notes about my behavior. My emotional attachments. My risk level. At the bottom of the page were words that chilled me. Subject shows early signs of resistance. That night, I didn't sleep. I realized the truth. They weren't waiting for me to break. They were watching to see how strong I was. And strength in this place was dangerous. I didn't wake up planning to escape. Fear doesn't work that way. It waits until courage grows tired of being silent. That morning, everything felt heavier. The air in the building seemed thicker. My badge felt like a weight around my neck. I moved through corridors that now felt smaller than before, as if the walls were slowly closing in. Every smile from security felt forced. Every camera blink felt personal. I had made a decision the night before. Not because I was brave. Because I was running out of time. While reviewing internal transport logs, I discovered something that made my blood go cold. Transfers. Late-night movements. Names disappearing from records shortly afterward. These weren't reassignments. They were removals. Quiet exits from the system. Permanent ones. I thought of my mother. I thought of the women who vanished. I thought of myself becoming another forgotten file. That was when I knew. If I didn't try now, I never would. At midday, I sent a simple message to the unknown contact who had warned me before. I typed only 3 words. "Is escape real?" Minutes passed. Then a reply appeared. "Tonight. Main exit. Wait for signal." My heart began to pound so loudly I was sure someone could hear it through the walls. The rest of the day moved in slow motion. I forced myself to work normally. I answered questions. I smiled when spoken to. Inside, panic screamed. At exactly 7:20 p.m., I stood from my desk and walked toward the elevator like it was any other evening. My palms were sweating. My legs felt weak. Every step echoed too loudly in my ears. The doors opened. No alarms. No guards. That alone terrified me. I walked through the lobby. My chest burned. I pushed open the glass doors and stepped outside. The city air hit my face. For one beautiful second, I believed I was free. Then my phone vibrated. A message appeared. Look up. Across the street, a massive digital billboard flickered to life. My mother's hospital room filled the screen. She lay peacefully, unaware that her life had become a warning. Another message followed. One more step, and the camera moves closer. I froze. People passed beside me, laughing, talking, living ordinary lives while my entire world balanced on a screen above their heads. My vision blurred with tears. Then came the final message. Come back inside. Slowly, I turned around. The glass doors were still open. Waiting. I walked back in. The moment I crossed the threshold, 2 guards appeared silently behind me. Not rough. Not angry. Just firm. They led me upstairs. The suited man was already waiting. He gestured for me to sit. You disappointed us, he said calmly. I just wanted to go home, I whispered. He nodded. Everyone does it first. I asked what would happen now. He leaned forward slightly. We'll make adjustments. They didn't lock me in a room. They didn't hurt me. They did something worse. They promoted me. More access. More responsibility. More monitoring. It was their way of reminding me that escape wasn't punished. It was studied. Before I left his office, he said quietly, next time, we won't use your mother. That sentence stayed with me longer than any threat. That night, I realized something important. They weren't afraid of me leaving. They were confident I couldn't. Because by now, they owned my fear. They owned my silence. They owned the part of me that still wanted to protect my mother. But they had made one mistake. They thought control meant victory. They didn't know I had been collecting evidence. And they didn't know that desperation can slowly turn into something far more dangerous. Resolve. Freedom didn't come to me suddenly. It arrived slowly, disguised as routine. After my failed escape, they stopped pretending I was just another worker. I was given deeper access to systems, higher-level files, and confidential communications. They called it trust. I understood it for what it truly was, surveillance with privileges. Every message I opened, every report I filed, every movement I made was being measured. They wanted to see if I would break, submit, or transform into something useful. I played the role they expected. I became quieter, more obedient, less emotional. Inside, I was building something else. I started copying information late at night, hiding it inside harmless-looking folders, embedding sensitive data within ordinary reports. Names, transfer routes, financial accounts, medical contracts. Everything that proved this organization survived on exploiting desperation. Every woman they recruited had been chosen because she had something to lose. Parents, children, debt. They didn't need chains. They used love. One evening, I finally understood the full scale of it. This wasn't just one building. It was a network stretching across cities and borders. Hospitals were part of it. Transport companies. Legal firms. Everything wrapped neatly in contracts that looked clean on the surface. People like me were assets, not employees. Our suffering had been turned into profit. Then came the final meeting. The suited man called me into his office again. His voice was calm, practiced. You've proven reliable, he said. We're prepared to close your obligation. My heart skipped. He continued, you may leave. Hope rose too quickly in my chest. But, he added, your mother will remain under our care. Full medical support. Lifetime coverage. And me? I asked. You walk away, he said. No payment. No contact. No explanation to anyone. I understood immediately. Freedom for me meant captivity for her. I sat silently, feeling something tear inside my chest. They weren't offering release. They were offering a trade. I closed my eyes and thought of my mother teaching me how to cook, how to pray, how to be kind even when life is cruel. I opened them again. I accept, I said softly. They smiled. That night, I moved fast. I uploaded everything. Every file. Every record. Every hidden contract. I sent copies to international watchdogs, journalists, anonymous servers, anywhere that could protect the truth. Then I triggered a system delay I had learned about weeks earlier. It gave me 20 minutes. That was all I needed. 3 days later, authorities arrived. Not just local police. Federal units. Financial investigators. Medical regulators. The building was sealed. Systems went offline. Executives disappeared behind closed doors. My mother was transferred immediately to a protected facility. She never knew how close she had come to being used as leverage forever. As for me, I vanished quietly. No interviews. No headlines. No justice speeches. I changed cities. Changed my name. Started again. Sometimes I wake at night remembering the cameras. The screens. The women who didn't make it out. I carry them with me. Today, I tell this story because someone out there is desperate right now. Someone is being offered help that feels too easy. Someone is standing outside a bright building, holding fear in their chest. Listen to me. If kindness comes with silence, if money arrives without questions, if leaving feels harder than staying, you are not being saved. You are being chosen. And the most dangerous prisons don't have walls. They have promises.